to another edition of the Daily Deuce. I'm Gary Graves from just outside lovely Louisville, Kentucky, and in Maryland, the land of pleasant living, the old line state, and all that. My longtime friend and esteemed colleague, John Webster. John, how you doing today?
Gary, I'm doing real good, man. It's another good week in sports. We're getting ready to roll into the NBA playoffs and a little baseball. Man, you can't help but love this time of the year.
Oh yeah. We could have two champions decided by this time next week. I know we're going to have a Belmont Stakes champion somewhere along the line, and we could talk about where those Orioles, or you could talk about where those Orioles are in the standings as we enter the June interdivisional play, and I guess there's probably some interleague play as well. But this is a pivotal month for the Orioles and any contender in any division of baseball, so we definitely want to touch upon that. But first, let's talk about the NBA Finals, which begin later on this week between Boston and Dallas. Both of them came off of relatively easy series wins. Boston more so than Dallas. Boston sweeping Indiana and having a week off plus change to prepare for the finals. Dallas needing an extra day or extra 2 days, but still they come in with about a week's rest after dispatching Minnesota in 5 games and winning decisively the game 5 on the road in Minnesota. And I guess that might be the thing that, for me, I think for the Boston Celtics is a warning not to overlook Dallas in any way, shape, or form, even though I still have Boston winning in 6 games. And I'll just say it like this. Kyrie Irving is on a roll. He's on a mission in a way that we haven't seen in his career, maybe since his days in Cleveland. I'm sure revenge will be on his mind when they face the Celtics, having played for them at one time and not doing what he's doing for Dallas now. And I feel like that's the thing that Boston, for all of their depth and as good as they've been all year, that you got to look out for a guy who's playing his best ball at the time of year that it counts, and he's got help with Luka Doncic, and you can't overlook that by any stretch, John.
Man, Gary, I tell you what. I'll start with Dallas. They have been a pleasant surprise second half of the season and throughout the playoffs when they knocked off the Clippers, they've knocked off Minnesota, and and they knocked off Oklahoma. So they've really been playing great ball. This combination of Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving offensively is unbelievable. It's a juggernaut. They're playing well. It's almost like you got to pick your poison on defense. I also think we had talked earlier about Daniel Gafford. He has been able to have a very pivotal role in these playoffs. As Charles Barkley said, he was released from jail when he got away from the Washington Wizards. So he is now playing well. He's an energy player. He does really well with the rebounding, with the defense. Derek Lively's the same thing. Lively has had a couple of head injuries, a concussion, and got hit in the head again in the last game of the Minnesota series. The X factor there, Doncic and Kyrie are going to do their thing. Dallas must get something out of P.J. Washington, and they must get something out of, the left-handed kid, Jones. They must get something out of them as well. You got to keep Derek Lively healthy, in my opinion, because I think Lively is more important from an extensive point on the court. I think Gafford is better coming off the bench and playing in spurts. He's valuable.
I agree.
But I don't think he can
some of the numbers down.
Yeah, I just don't think he can do as much as Lively can. And when Gafford catches the ball in open court on offense, that is a question mark about what he can do. He's not as comfortable, I think, with the pick and roll as Lively is. He's not able to make some of the same passes that Lively can when he has the ball out of the pick and roll. They're tough. They're very tough. Now, on this other side, the Boston Celtics. Hey, all you can do is play what's in front of you. People have been saying they've had an easy way to go to get here. They beat who? They beat last series.
Indiana.
Indiana. Yeah. Indiana had an injured player. The series before they beat Miami. Miami had an injured player, and I can't even think of who they won. Oh, Cleveland. It was Miami injured with Butler, then Cleveland with Donovan Mitchell. And then Indiana lost Halliburton.
Tyrese Halliburton, yeah.
The Celtics are still one of the best teams in the NBA. I like Jason Tatum, and I like Jaylen Brown. They are a rough 1-2 combination. I think they are going to step up to the occasion for this next series. Porzingis is coming back. I think there's been talk about, do you start Porzingis and bring Horford off the bench, or do you start Horford and bring Porzingis off the bench? You know, that's a question of the riches, Gary. I wish everybody had that
problem to have.
Yeah. I mean, it's unbelievable. But I tell you this, when I dissect and look at Boston playing Dallas, I think that Boston will have an advantage in being able to have multiple people be able to guard Doncic, whether it's Jaylen Brown, whether it's Jason Tatum. I think that's going to be very important.
Or even Porzingis, if he's healthy or not.
Porzingis. Don't underestimate Derek White and Drew Holiday. That's something that I don't think Dallas has seen in this playoff. As good of a mismatch as they had against Minnesota, because their bigs were put on roller skates and had to come out there and check Doncic and Kyrie and whatever happened with Lively or Gafford. I think they have a mismatch this time, and the Celtics have the advantage because those four people that you and I just named, Derek White, Drew Holiday, Jason Tatum, and Jaylen Brown, can all guard 1 through 3, or maybe with Tatum 1 through 4. That is very important because the pick and roll that Dallas used successfully throughout the playoffs, I think they will struggle with this series because when they switch off, you may switch off and end up with one of those 4 guys on you. They can still move their feet and stop you. That will still happen. I also think with Lively being injured with a concussion, you never know how much a concussion is going to affect you, Gary. You don't know. You hope he's okay, but he got hit in the head again in the 5th game against Minnesota. You hope he's okay, but you never know with concussions. I think that could have an effect on it as well. You look at Boston with Horford, Porzingis. That's a lot of size, and that's going to give them problems. My thought on this series right now, I see Boston winning this series. I'll say in 7. I just think, and it may be, I won't say maybe. I'll just go Boston in 7. It's going to be a good series. It's going to be a series of chess matches, but Boston figures it out in the end and brings another championship to the Garden.
Mm-hmm. The only reason why I picked them in 6 as opposed to 7, and obviously with home court advantage, that gives them I'm gonna say another game to play with. But I don't think Boston to play with anything. In other words, they ain't playing this spring. Joe Mazzulla has them playing in a way they have a they have a finishing instinct. I don't want to say a killer instinct, but he has them playing with a purpose. And in the same way we talked about Kyrie Irving and Luka Doncic, gelling together and bringing out a dimension of their games that we hadn't seen in either player, I think we're seeing the same thing with Jaylen Brown in that he can defend, he can rebound. We knew he could shoot. We did not know that he could shoot from deep with regularity. What that does for the Celtics, I believe, is that it keeps them from having to rely on Jason Tatum having to make those big baskets. We know that he can shoot, but we've often questioned his shot selection, his judgment in some situations. Jaylen Brown is a very smart player. He doesn't, he got the contract. He's living up to the contract. And I think he has become a smarter player. Mazzulla has given him obviously more responsibility, and he is finding that from all over the court in terms of what he can do. But to your point about how the pick and rolls will work, or how Dallas made them work in other series, they're not going to have that same luxury because, as you said, they can rotate a number of guys. And let's not forget, Horford can defend too. He can pick up on pick and rolls too. That's the thing that I think has made Boston just a much better team this year. In that they understand their assignments. There's not as much, I don't want to say freestyling. They're still kind of a free flowing offense when it's really clicking.
Sure.
But they're not freestyling. They're really trying to stay within the discipline of what Mazzulla has them doing. But on offense, I think he is telling these guys, especially Jaylen Brown, it's like, look, you've got game. You can shoot. You know what your range is. I can see he has more freedom. He's using it, and he's using it smartly. And I think it was how many games was it where he had it? I think he was averaging something like 39, maybe for the first, 3 or 4 games of this series. That, to me, that just shows exactly how much confidence he has in his game. And again, I don't think Boston is really they're not in a mindset now where we're going to play wait and see. They're being assertive. They're dictating the flow. They're making teams react to them. And yes, while it might have helped with key players, key opponents being out in all 3 series, they don't have that excuse this time. But I don't think it matters because you look at the way that they really closed out the Pacers to win both of those games on the road it's not a difficult place to win in on the road, as you might think. But the way that they closed out Game 4, that I just thought it was just very, very impressive, and that you knew it was just like, when were they going to turn it on? When were they going to make that move and really force the Pacers, really forced the Pacers to try to react to what they were doing. Because remember, the Pacers were actually hanging with them for both of those games, in Indianapolis. But there was always a point where you just knew Boston was going to find that other edge. Mazzulla calls a timeout. They come out. They get a defensive stop, and then they turn it. I think it was like, what was maybe a 6-point game all of a sudden, becomes like a 10, 12-point game. And it was just adjustments that he made. For a guy that was thrust into a very difficult situation and taking over that team, he's really made it his own.
Yeah, Mazzulla's done a good job. He's not in an easy situation. You got 2 of the top 10 players in the league on the team. You have a team pretty much ready to win, in the two of the top 10 players in the league. And it's just, they're a good team. And Missoula is an unfortunate situation or a fortunate situation. Is doing a great job. You mentioned one thing about the Celtics, and this is important. In the Indiana series and in all series they've had this year, they have a tendency to go to sleep at the wheel. They cannot afford to do this against the Dallas Mavericks. Also, they cannot get caught up in depending on the three-point shot. Go to the basket, get your shots, get some nice mid-range games going. You can't get caught depending on shooting threes and they're not falling and you keep on shooting them. Drive to the basket. Drive, drive, drive. I think Jaylen Brown has done a really great job with that this year. I mean, I don't take anything away from Jason Tatum. He does a great job and he's a fantastic player. But I have to say, the one who I really love on that team is Jaylen Brown. He's the glue. He holds things together. He's scrappy. He's doing everything. And again, I say this not as any knock against Jason Tatum, but Jaylen Brown is just he's my kind of ball player. He's my kind of guy. The way he goes out and deals with it each and every game, and I think Jaylen and Jason are a terrific combo that you just can't forget about one. You better concentrate on them all, on both of them. And as we said before, Boston with their team with Derek White, Drew Holiday, and Porzingis, Horford, and that bench as well, they're tough. The more we talk, the more confident I feel about Boston winning this series.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was two things. One that you alluded to in terms of X factors. You talked about PJ Washington, which we've been saying about him these last two series in particular, that he has become an X factor for Dallas. He's become that third scorer that they have probably wanted and definitely needed in the playoffs, and he has delivered in a way that none of us really saw. I think with Boston, the X factor is probably going to be Porzingis from the standpoint of how healthy can he be? How healthy will he be? Of course, he's had that extra week off. I think that really helps Boston in terms of him. I'd say early on coming off the bench and getting his feet underneath him in game situations before Missoula decides whether to start him or not. Either way, it's a good problem to have. And I think, again, Boston's depth is really going to make a difference in this series. And I think Boston, so much so that I think if Boston doesn't steal game one, they can probably get game two. And that will definitely swing the momentum their way. Well, I'm sorry. I meant to say game three or game four, because I think they can win both games at home. It's just like what you said. Do they take their eye off the ball? Do they lose their focus and give away a game that was like right there for them? They can't afford to lose their focus. That's the main thing they have to do. Is just like keep their foot on the gas, no breaks, stay focused, and really put away an opponent on their home floor and not give them any hope. Because the one thing about Kyrie and Luka together, and that's helped them in this playoffs, is that they've been able to steal that one game on the road that nobody expected them to win, obviously, and they've used it to their advantage. Boston can't afford that in this round, and I don't think Boston, when they really have to play, they really do step up.
Gary, I hope you're right, man. They played better this playoffs, in my opinion, on the road. The games that they have lost, I think they're like 4-8, 12-2 in the playoffs right now. Both of those losses were at home to what was it, Cleveland, and it was to who else did they lose? Who else?
Cleveland and God, who did they play in the first round?
I just said it.
What we said? Oh,
Miami,
Miami.
Miami, yeah,
Yeah.
Cleveland and Miami. That's where they've given up on the home games. On the road, they're undefeated so far in the playoffs. They've done their thing. They gotta stay awake. This will not be an easy series, Gary. Will not be an easy series. As you said, Dallas has done some things on the road, and they've stolen games on the road from Oklahoma. They've stolen games from Minnesota. 2 games from Minnesota, 3 games from Minnesota on the road. So they're nothing
Yeah.
to play with. They're nothing to play with. Kyrie Irving is playing really well. I have to be honest with you. I'm happy for the guy. I'm glad to see what he's doing on the court. He's had some challenges over the last couple of years. So I'm just happy to see him and having the success he's having right now.
Yep, I agree with you wholeheartedly. But John, let's pivot over to baseball. Let's turn the corner, so to speak, the hot corner, and talk about your Baltimore Orioles. Of course, we move into June, which is a very pivotal month. You start to see a lot more divisional showdowns in the American League East. We know it's the New York Yankees and the Baltimore Orioles, not too far behind them. But Baltimore, I think the last time we talked, Baltimore was hanging, but they're still kind of shaky. And I'm going to defer to you on the Orioles, and you just tell me what you think their problems are right now, their concerns are, what their pluses are, and how they have to catch the New York Yankees.
I'll start off by saying the Orioles are 17 games above 500. They're playing good ball, but are they a good team or are they an inconsistent team? Gary, I say they're inconsistent. Reason being, they're still 3 games back. Last time you and I talked, they were 3 games back. They had a game yesterday with the Tampa Bay Rays, jumped out to a 3-0 lead, lost 4-3. Bases loaded, 1 out in the 8th, losing 4-3. All you need is a ball hit to the outfield. You hit into a double play on the first pitch. I think the Orioles will make the playoffs. I think they are a dangerous team, but I don't think they struggle with hitting all through the order consistently. Santander seems to have caught fire again. Austin Hayes seems to have caught fire again. Mullins is trying, but Mullins also is, as I've said before, and I'll say over and over again, Mullins is the best center fielder on the team. You have to keep him out there. He made an unbelievable catch at robbing somebody of a home run yesterday. Their pitching, John Means is now out for the season. Elbow challenges again, needs surgery. Tyler Wells is now out for the season. So you have Kyle Bradis, Grayson Rodriguez, Corbin Burns, and Cole Irvins. Those are your 4 right now. And you have Albert Suarez. One of the things that hurts them, and I've said over and over again, is nothing that can be done about it now. They miss Bautista. Kimbrel is there. Kimbrel is doing a decent job, but he's inconsistent. It's a little bit of a worry. You just don't have. I like to have a bullpen where I have 6th, 7th, 8th, 9th lockdown. And I think right now the Orioles are in a situation where they are a bullpen by committee. Sometimes it'll be Kayum, sometimes it'll be Cano, in the 7th and 8th inning. Kimbrel will come in the 9th. It's just bullpen by committee. I think sometimes they may hang on too long with a pitcher. Dylan Tate yesterday. I'll go back to Cole Irvin. Cole Irvin had a good first 4 innings, but then in the 5th inning, batter hit a nice shot off of him. That's when Cedric Mullins went to the fence and robbed him of a home run. Gary, I'll throw a name to you, old school. I guess I'm more like Sparky Anderson. All I want my guys to do is 5 innings, and as soon as I sense you have any trouble, I'm pulling you. And when the batter hit the ball all the way to deep center field and almost over the fence, that's enough for me. You're done for the day. You did a great job, but now let me go to the bullpen. And now I just think think about the Kansas City teams a few years ago when they went to the World Series. Sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth. If you didn't get them by the fifth inning, you weren't going to get them.
You're
Believe me,
talking
I
about the most
know.
recent Kansas City teams, right? I
Yeah,
mean, like
the
the one
most
that won the
recent.
World Series, just a
Yeah,
few years back.
the one that swept the Orioles in the playoffs. I know what I
Mm.
talk about, Mr. Gray. The one that I still have nightmares over. That that was a great Orioles team, and they went down 4-0. And the thing is, if you didn't get them the first 5 innings, six maybe, you didn't get them at all. And
Exactly.
I just need the Orioles to be like that. The Orioles used to have what was the guy's name? He almost threw underhanded. Darren O'Day. You would bring him in the
Oh,
sixth inning,
man,
seventh
that's a
inning.
name I forgot.
Yeah, yeah. They used to. You need a bullpen with like a Darren O'Day where he can come in the sixth inning, seventh inning, whether it's a right hand or a left hand, he can get the job done. And you need to set it up so they need to find a way to get back the way it was before. Cano is a setup man. He is best in the eighth inning. They need to find a way to just lock him in, and then Kayum, Keegan Aiken, CNL Perez, they can do the sixth and seventh, and that ninth is Kimbrell. That's what they got to find. Gunnar Henderson, unbelievable player. Adley Rushman, unbelievable player. Jordan Westberg, same thing. Mountcastle, great fielder. He's streaky on his bat. They have a very talented team, Gary. Very talented. And I guess I am spoiled to be sitting here talking about them like this because they're 17 games over 500 and they're 3 games out. And I should be very happy. And I am happy, but I want more. And I think they can give more. It's just like I said, the pitching, the bullpen has got to improve if they're going to advance in the playoffs. It has to.
Yep. Well, John, I'll let you have the last word on that one. We've had, I tell you, time has gone by way too fast for us, John, talking about basketball and your beloved Baltimore Orioles. And I guess I could say my beloved Baltimore Orioles. They're like the second child, but you still love them nonetheless. So hopefully next week we'll be talking about the Orioles being closer to the Yankees, or at least staying on their heels, and possibly having a better read on whether the Boston Celtics or Dallas Mavericks, have a bead on an NBA championship. We didn't even get into the NHL, but when that kind of shapes up, we can talk about that next week, because that starts a little bit later and a little bit closer to when we'll talk again. But John, I'll say this to our viewers: watch sports, watch us. You can watch us on Facebook, YouTube. We'll send you an email link to get to us one way or another. But make sure you watch plenty of sports so you can follow along with what we're talking about. And John, take us home.
Hey, Gary said it all. Watch some sports, whether you're watching the NBA playoffs, Major League Baseball. I think the Belmont Stakes is coming up this week or next week. You got hockey. You got the Florida Panthers, who just knocked out the New York Rangers, and you got a good series going with Dallas and Edmonton. Unbelievable. Watch some sports and come back and see us again next week. Take care.